For me, my story starts out as a kid on a farm in the far western New South Wales. A time of big water, big machines, and sometimes a bit of both. So I've lived through the dynamics and variabilities that is agriculture, and I know that one of those core functions is soil moisture. Say you're a farmer. It's mid-April and you're about to sink in excess of $1 million in dropping a crop into your 7,000 hectares of farmland. You got some good rainfall over summer, but you don't really know how it's gone for your soil. You see, the rain's getting a bit more patchy. We've got a bit of lighter soil down the back corner, a bit of cover crop left from last year, and gee, we've had some hot days. So we grab our shovel and go for a walk. We dig a hole down the eastern boundary, one down the bottom block and one near the old windmill. And what we find is we've actually got a variation in our profile by about 2 inches, which is not that unusual anymore. And our seeding machine, as good as it is, it doesn't know where the profile is either. So what we're going to end up with is potentially a third of our crop seeded too deep and a third of our crop seeded too shallow, meaning a third of our crop is going to suffer from late emergence and the other third, well, it might not emerge at all. Wouldn't it be great if after all that cost and all that time and all that investment, we had some sort of confidence that every one of those seeds was placed in the best spot possible for germination? Well, we have developed that technology. This is our smart seeder with embedded sensors within the seeder's tine, which is measuring and monitoring the conditions of the soil in real time. No one else is doing this. These sensors are sending data back to our onboard Edge AI, which is processing that data and making decisions live. That data is being sent back out to our own row unit, which can self-adjust itself and optimize itself for optimal seed placement live. No one else is doing this. 2 weeks ago, we were at AgQuip, probably the biggest field days on the east coast of Australia. Hundreds of farmers stopped in to see us because they know that this is the technology they need on farm right now. We wanted to find 5,000 hectares so that we could do some cropping trials in the new year. We came away with just short of 30,000 hectares. But this thing is bigger than just being a smart seeder. It's about knowing what's going on within the soil over every metre of the whole farm. It's being able to collect that data and overlay it year on year and compare it with yield maps. And ultimately, it's about producing more crops more often. And this whole thing about climate change, it's not just affecting Australia, it's happening right around the world. Even places like Europe are having droughts, and they are now looking upon Australia for those sort of solutions. So we're really aiming our technology for a global market. Internationally, there's about 1.4 billion hectares under cropping, and the market for seeding equipment is currently growing at about 6.5%, which is fantastic, except all those machines are dumb, and they're not reading the soil like what we are. So we're going to prove and validate our technology in the toughest country in the world first, right here, and then we're going to take it international. First to Canada and the US in 2021, then to Europe and South America. Right now, we're in the final stages of putting together a 6-metre 3-point linkage machine for us to do summer cropping trials in coming months. But in January, we are building a full-size 12-metre 40-row unit that will be taking over for commercial operations over those 30,000 hectares we now have available to us. But we're not going to build the whole kit. We don't need to reinvent the whole wheel, so we are going to implement and integrate our technology onto an existing manufacturer's platform. This greatly reduces the overhead in our manufacturing process, greatly shortens our lead time in our manufacturing to delivery, and makes it super simple for when we start chasing those global markets. But this is more than just a smart seeding machine. If we take that underlying technology that we've got here, we've been able to map out a whole roadmap of smart, tech-enabled equipment that can work together and talk together on farm to not only increase crop yields, but to de-risk the whole farming operation. This is everything from implements through to tractors. Behind me, I've got this amazing team, Paul and Gordon, both mechanical engineers. Paul's sorting out all the design and the strength analysis. Gordon's doing all the control and logic. We've also got Wendy, another engineer, who's sorting out the quality control and the engineering verification, and Jackie is sorting out the purchasing accounts and everything else. Look, I suppose there's a lot of tech in ag right now, but I'd like to think we're on the front line of that, physically out there on the farm, engaging with the soil. We're not building drones or robots or Internet of Things. But what we are building is smart machines that work, that have a real and functional purpose on farm with a quantifiable return on investment. Ultimately, we're putting food onto the table in an increasingly challenging environment. Thank you.